Hey guys, it's Rich Boy J here back again with another video, and this is going to be part 17 of the Crait MOC build series. Now you can see we've kind of changed the orientation of these videos. Basically, that area of the table got too full, so I had to kind of turn the camera on the other side of the room, and I think it's going to be a pretty good visual because right behind me is where the mountains are going to keep going upwards and upwards. So on throughout the build process, you guys are going to see the mountains just get taller and taller behind me, and they're soon going to go off the camera. And I know a lot of people have been asking, what exactly are the mountains and caves in this MOC going to entail? I want to break that down for you in this video. As kind of a rough idea, that section is going to take up about 1/3 of the MOC. It's going to be a 3x4 base plate area, and we have so many plans to put in that thing, so really can't wait to show you guys that. I'm really excited to also show you guys the mountains that we've been working on. I feel we've really nailed the color combinations that we want, as well as the variety of pieces and the rock work that will make them look very dynamic and look very accurate to what you see in the movie. So without further ado guys, let's jump right into it. So as promised, this is a quick look at the blueprints for the cave section. I understand it's not very easy to see, so I want to do my best in trying to show you guys exactly what everything is. So this is the door. This is just rocks and rocks, mountains on either side of the big door. And then this is the actual interior part of the caves. So these circles just kind of represent columns that will go from the ground to the very top of the cave. And those are actually very important because we actually plan on putting Monolithium Falcon on top of like the rock section to replicate the scene where Ray comes in, saves the day, and picks everyone up. Also, these like orb looking things right here and right here are going to be the two resistance transports, so they'll be sitting in there as well. This box is the the First Order shuttle that Ray and Finn and Rose take to Crait, so that's going to be kind of just crashed right there. Over here is going to be that main kind of headquarters area where they go and they kind of set up base with their computers and such, and Poe and I believe Leia are going to be hanging out there. We're going to have a cave that kind of goes from the very back of the MOC to this part, and that's going to be where Luke makes his entrance, so that'll actually be pretty cool to replicate. And then we're also going to have a cave similar to that on this side, and that's pretty much kind of a rough idea of what's going to be in these cave sections. Obviously, there'll probably be a lot more details, things that weren't really important for us to get written down, but this is just kind of the basic idea of what we're going to do for that interior cave section. Alright, I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at the resistance shuttle that I've been working on. I think it's coming along pretty well, actually. I'm glad that finally gotten to the point where I've been building this. This is actually one of my favorite new ships in The Last Jedi, so I'm super stoked to just finish this up and actually get it built in real bricks. Obviously, there's a few things that I still need to finish up, like, for example, finishing, like, the entire top in its entirety, and, of course, changing around some colors on some things, and just polishing some parts of it. But generally, this is a pretty good look at what it's going to look like. Here is the interior. So, obviously, you know, I've done nothing with it, but it's going to have a full interior, so you're going to be able to place a lot of figs in this thing. I believe in canon, about 60 people can fit in it, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not I can get 60 minifigures in here once everything is, once all like the innards are actually inside of it. That'll actually be an interesting kind of thing to test. But I feel that it looks quite accurate. I was kind of apprehensive about starting this just because like there's so many interesting curves that aren't easily replicated with Lego, but I think I did a pretty good job in especially like this front area of just kind of replicating what the actual shuttle looks like. So we're planning to have two of these things inside of the caves on this MOC. Hopefully we'll be able to actually do that. I know we'll at least have one, but if time permits, we will put two in it, which is definitely my goal because I think it'll add so much to be able to have two of these transports there. It'll just make it look very realistic and close to what you see in the movie. That's really all I have to show. One last thing I do want to say is that this thing is, as you can see, is already 2,172 bricks, which is kind of ridiculous, but that's just kind of how it had to be. It's minifig scale, which puts it at, I believe, like 20 inches long, which is honestly much bigger than I wanted to make it. I initially was just decided I'll just make it a little bit smaller than minifig scale, but once I started kind of designing it, I realized that it would just look correct to have it the correct scale. I couldn't really take any shortcuts on the size. So I'm happy that actually happened because, you know, every other ship in this MOC is minifig scale. So it would kind of be a disservice to have this be the one thing that wasn't. So we can continue with our trend of having minifig scale ships, and all in all, very happy with the way this thing looks. So let's go ahead and move forward. And here it is, guys. I'm honestly not really sure where to begin. I feel like this will be a relatively shorter update than the other ones, just because all the new elements of the MOC are pretty contained to this area, with the exception of that square over there. However, I didn't feel it was really necessary to show you it because it's basically just a mirror image of what's happening over here. But I'm excited that we got that done because that means that we're actually going to be able to start erecting the mountains on both of the sides. So let's get into what you guys have pretty much been waiting for. This is what we came up with for the mountains, and obviously you can see there are a variety of colors in this, all of which I feel are pretty accurate to Crait, and I'll kind of break down like what's actually going on with all of these colors. So starting with the first color, you can see that there is a very vast white section, and what that essentially is just kind of the salt that is built up along the very bottom of the mountain. So I feel like that's pretty obvious. And then there's obviously some light gray in there as well. What I feel the light gray kind of represents is like the dark gray mountain section, but just with a very light layer of salt on it. So it hasn't covered it enough to make it look completely white. However, it is there enough to change the color of and the appearance of it. So I feel that that mix in there just adds a lot of I don't know, it makes it look a lot more dynamic. I feel like the colors don't clash as much if it was just kind of a white automatically to a transition of dark gray. But I feel that it kind of helped blend the white in and make it look a little bit more natural. The red is obviously the color of the dirt on Crait, so obviously that would be built up around the base of the mountains. The red actually doesn't really exist in large quantities in the mountain. It kind of just exists as little veins and slivers, so there's not going to be a ton of red in the mountain or like a big cluster of it, but there will be small clusters kind of spread throughout, which is good news because these red slopes are not cheap at all, and they're in fact very difficult to find in large quantities, so I'm happy that the mountain isn't just all red, otherwise we would be in trouble. But yeah, that's kind of the idea we have for these mountain sections, guys. Of course, let us know what you think about this. This thing is going to get very tall. It's probably going to end up being around 4 feet tall, just to give it probably a foot over the ATM6. So that's going to be quite a challenge, but you know, hopefully it can work out. We have a bunch of pieces for this. We've been investing in a lot of resources to be able to do this part of the MOC, even ever since we started it. Before we actually have been doing this, we've just been buying a lot of these rock pieces to make sure that when we got to this point in the MOC, we would have a lot to work on without having to stop and wait and order more. So it's working out in our favor so far. We have plenty left, so these things should be progressing pretty smoothly. Granted, nothing catastrophic happens. The other thing I do want to show you guys is on this side, you can see that there are some exposed trans red areas of the MOC, and these are essentially the crystals that are in the mountains. We didn't want to just leave this and be like a plain dark gray wall. We instead wanted to have it be slightly dynamic and kind of match what was going on with dirt sections over here. That's kind of like the cutoff, and our idea was to basically just do kind of the same thing with the rock section or the mountain section, but still have some of that like exposed trans red to give you the idea that like yes, there are like many crystals and gems inside these mountains. So I think it actually turned out really well. Garrett is actually the one who built most of this section up, and I got to give him much props, much kudos. He did an amazing job with this. So guys, tell Garrett how much you love his work in the comment section. One other thing I do want to add is you can see kind of over here there is just kind of this dark gray stack of slopes that just go straight up, and that's actually meant to represent kind of a track that the door is on. So imagine it's like an elevator and the door is connected on either side to this track, and that's kind of what makes it go up and down. To be 100% clear, our door will not go up and down. There are two reasons. One, the door is only open for like a few seconds in the movie, so we wouldn't even be able to like replicate a lot of the scenes that we're trying to do by having the door open. It really doesn't do anything for us. And then two, we're actually going to have the door be battle damaged on the second day of displaying the MOC, which means that there's going to be a giant hole that we're going to have to be able to like take out of the middle of it so we can have Luke Skywalker walking through it. So for those two reasons, we decided not to have the door elevated. It would create more problems than it's worth for something that doesn't even appear for a very long time in the movie. So hopefully you guys can understand that. Now, moving on to down here, I think this is probably one of the most interesting looking parts of the MOC. So obviously we've been working on these rock sections for quite a long time, and I feel that it's finally kind of paying off over here in this section, because you can see just how like it interacts with the actual like people and innards of the MOC. And the idea behind this is that there's essentially the trench, obviously, but they have to get to the trenches somehow. So there is this tunnel that goes all the way from over here inside the base. So you can see through there, it kind of like curves off and then it goes back around the corner. We even put a little minifigure in there. We tried to make sure it wasn't like a good minifigure, as we're not going to be able to pull that out for a very long time until we take this MOC apart. But like I was saying, the idea is that the tunnel kind of just goes back into the base, and that's actually how they would get to and from the battle. So I think it looks pretty cool. I feel like I've been saying this a lot recently, but this is probably now my favorite area of the MOC, even though that seems to be changing by the week. But we're just getting into building so many interesting parts of the MOC now that I'm really happy with the way this thing looks. One other thing I'm sure you'll notice is that there is a little tunnel that kind of leads that way, and that is actually an accessible part of the MOC. So what we've done is kind of replicated the pop-up sections over by the trenches, and we actually have a tunnel that you can see that goes through the bottom of the MOC. So it's a pretty cool way to be able to interact with the MOC and, you know, just have some surprises. This tunnel is actually going to connect with the trench over here, so you can kind of get an idea that the tunnel will continue on this base plate right next to it, right here, and then it'll kind of come here, curve around, and it'll connect to this part. So this will all be able to be pulled up, so you guys will be able to see kind of how these tunnels connect with each other. But all in all, pretty happy we're able to put this into the MOC. I feel like it's kind of a surprise element of it, honestly. I feel most people won't really expect for it to do that, but you know, we can pop up those sections, which I feel is pretty cool. So yeah, that is pretty much all I have to show you guys. Just to kind of give you guys another pulled back look of the MOC, because I always like kind of giving people a big picture look at this thing. This is what it's looking like. We got, obviously, walkers on this side, battlefield, turret, and finally we have some mountains. So super stoked to finally have those in some form or fashion. We can finally get some good views of like down here, you know, Poe running towards the trench with some mountains in the background. So finally able to get some like good backdrops on that side of the MOC, as opposed to just having to take all the pictures going in the other direction. And I guess one last thing I do want to show you guys is I did fix this turret. Before there was a lot of sagging with that gun, and I was able to work it out, and it looks much better now. There's still slags slightly, but not nearly as much as it did before. So all in all, really happy with the way that turret is looking. One of the things I do hope to do by the next update is also at least get that turret over there started. That way we can have, you know, that side of the MOC look a little bit more finished. Right now it looks like, oh, we put all our time and effort into this side, and then that side just kind of gets neglected. So I'm going to try to make sure I make a concerted effort to get that side at least, you know, halfway done. That way we can have two semblances of turrets, and we can have even better photo opportunities for pulled back pictures on this MOC. So I guess that's going to finish up the update, guys. Let's go ahead and move to the final part of the video. All right, guys, that's going to finish up this week's update. Once and as I always say, hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think about the rock work that we've done. I think that it is just coming along so well. This is really an interesting part of the MOC, and I was trying to make sure that we got all the right pieces that we would need to be able to create something that looked very dynamic, something very natural, but yet very accurate to the movie, and also very realistic. So I think we were able to capture that. I really can't wait to get more and more of the mountains built up. A lot of the base plates that we've been working on have just been all salt, so it's nice to be working on something that is very different, yet something that isn't just, you know, kind of expanding over the table, but actually expanding upwards in a vertical direction. So this MOC is going to be getting pretty exciting moving forward. Also, hopefully by the next update, I'll have an actual physical resistance shuttle to be able to show you guys. So we're going to be able to figure out exactly where both of those are going to be placed back in the cave section, and then hopefully be able to also figure out maybe some of the other things that we could put in that section of the MOC. So everything is progressing very nicely, guys. I hope that you're enjoying following along with this process. I feel that we're kind of shifting into a new gear and really starting to get into some interesting parts of the MOC. A lot of like natural and cave types of things that we're going to be doing moving forward. and I think it's going to create for a very interesting experience for you guys. You're going to get to see it kind of go from the ground up, quite literally. So that's going to finish up the video this week, guys. The live stream should probably be coming up on Thursday. That's the planned date that we have for it. So make sure you guys check out that. We're going to be obviously building more of the rock section, so it's going to be pretty cool. And then hopefully the views from Crait video will also come out sometime this week. I skipped it last week because I feel I didn't have enough new pictures to be able to put into it, but this week there will be one, and I have some pretty cool pictures I'm going to have to show you guys. So once again, guys, as I always say, if you like what we do, go ahead, support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by hitting the subscribe button with the notifications, because that's actually very important. And we'll be back again very soon with another update. Thank all of you for watching.